The Sword of Etheria is one of the most inspired games I've ever played. It is a type of game that has long since passed, and we will never see a big studio like Konami ever take a risk in making something like this ever again. If you are familiar with my taste in games, then you will know that this is the highest praise I can give when saying that this game is the closest thing to capturing and scratching the same itch that the vibes that the original Nier had, with the only other game ever coming as close being El Shaddai. The aesthetics of this game are some of the best out there. The character designs, especially their armor, are so cool looking. The menus have the best kind of beeps and boops. They really remind me of the sound effects for the menus in Fire Emblem Awakening. Chapter intros have these amazing title cards and some of the smoothest liquefied transitions I've ever seen. The few pre-rendered cutscenes that are present in this game are still some of the most striking out there. The music to this game is incredible. It bounces between a combination of ambient, oppressive droning to orchestral works to banging rock music. If someone told me that these were prototype tracks for Nier or Drakengard 3, I'd believe them. There are simply too many good tracks in this game to show all of them off, so I highly recommend going out and listening to the entire OST yourself, but to give you an idea of just how hype the music can be, here is the main menu track. The title wasn't an exaggeration when I said that this game is Konami's Wizard of Oz Devil May Cry fanfic fever dream. Most of the characters are a direct analog to one from the movie. The main character, Phil, is the Tin Man, Leon is the Scaredy Lion, and Almira is the Scarecrow. Phil's sister is Dorothy, their pet which transforms into your sword is Toto, and you get the idea. Almira and Leon are part of a group called Oz, standing for Over Zenith, those who are messengers of God. Someone was cooking when they made the story for this game, and I want more like it. Konami just had this period where a guy at the company making decisions was really into the Wizard of Oz, because they also made the Cosmo archetype in Yu-Gi-Oh!, which is a mashup between Star Wars and the Wizard of Oz. This has to be the most out-of-pocket source to turn into a the gods are evil and we must kill them story, and I am all for stuff like this. The setting and atmosphere are so unique and fresh feeling, even if they conform to a lot of writing tropes and conventions. This game was Konami's answer to the upcoming Devil May Cry 4. They saw some mock-ups of Nero found in the dumpster between Capcom's office and a Denny's and were like, huh, they might be onto something. I jest, but I do find it very funny that Phil is also voiced by Johnny Young Bosch, who is a half-human, half-divine being with a funny monster arm and has a bone to pick with the standing theocracy. The rest of the voice cast is also who you would expect to find in a mid-2000s English dub, like Wendy Lee voices Almira and Dave Wittenberg voices Leon, along with Crispin Freeman voicing Kane and Steve Bloom being Vetus. But for some reason, the entire English cast went uncredited in this game. I reached out to Johnny Young Bosch on Instagram and asked him if there was any particular reason for this, and if the fact that the game didn't come out in America had anything to do with it, since the entire cast was LA big-name voice actors of the time. But even with this being a major release from a major studio like Konami, they do have a notoriously bad track record with paying, crediting, and many other things for their creative talent. so this is honestly nothing new. But that aside, everyone does a great job in this game, and by the end I really loved the entire cast. Another one of the many unique aspects of this game is the combat. Unlike your typical third-person action game, where you are the sole character fighting an onslaught of enemies in an attempt to style on them, this game instead has a party and a juggling system. After the first few missions where you break God's control over Almira and Leon, they'll join your party and all three of you fight in tandem. Together you toss enemies around like you are playing a lovely game of beach volleyball. You combo an enemy and send them flying, which will prompt either Almira or Leon to rush to them to do their own combo and then pass to the other party member, and once they're done comboing it, they'll finally pass it back to you. While playing this game of hot potato with your friends, you'll start building up this meter which will allow you to do special moves. It has 3 ranks, as red is just Feel's AoE attack, which is good at keeping enemies in the air or launching them to your allies. Level 2 is either yellow or blue, corresponding to the tag attack with either Almira or Leon. I believe it is based on which person is closest to you, but it could also be who you passed the enemy to. Leon's is a charging forward attack, which is great for an executioner or breaking large enemies' guards or their armor. Almira's is a rain down of energy shards in a cone, and level 3 is a full team attack, which is pretty hard to get off most of the time, but the payoff is well worth it when you do. The way that dying and getting a game over works in this game is completely unique, as when your health bar reaches 0, you enter a down state where you start mashing the X button or have the ability to just let it naturally refill. Once this grayed out meter refills, it will replenish a part of your health bar. The amount it heals becomes progressively less and less each time you die. It is only when all 3 party members enter this downed, recharging, staggered state is when you get a game over. So the game does give you a lot of chances to come back from what would be a death in a lot of other games, but it does become incredibly annoying if you manage to die over and over again before getting to a boss, so you die in one hit, and then when you get up you have sub 10% HP returned. All of these things take some getting used to because your individual move list isn't that robust and some other things we're about to get into, but as a whole, it is more than enough to be engaging. Unfortunately, the game never reaches its full potential in the combat department, as there are a bunch of weird quirks holding it back. Firstly, your movement is on the stiff side. I wish you were just slightly faster in general movement, and when turning, you tend to get stuck in animations that go on a little too long and end up getting sent flying by large enemies later in the game. They do have a tutorial for animation canceling, which is nice, but sadly the amount you can do is very limiting. A bunch of your swings are weirdly slow. I would love to see this game have a turbo mode. Like I said a few sentences ago, your individual move list is not very robust, which feels weird to say because later in the game you fight evil copies of your party and they could completely style on you doing moves you do not have access to, or at the very least are not explained how to do or how to get. I referenced the Sword of Etheria when talking about the Ghost Rider game, that a shortcoming that a lot of games within this genre have is how they lack a unification between combos on the ground and combos in the air. This was the game I had in mind when writing that because it feels like there are 2 separate systems missing connective tissue, i.e. moves, that would tie the 2 together and increase the depth of this game. The almost jump cancel technique that the game teaches you is the closest thing you're going to get to ground to air gameplay, which is nice, but still feels lacking overall. At times it feels like you're playing with an incomplete move list. You just need 1 or 2 more moves that can connect things to make it feel a lot more seamless. Because of the stiffness and the lack of ground to air or air to ground combat, it's never easy to follow up on your allies passing enemies to you. You have to awkwardly try to get into a position to catch enemies falling into your general direction. The only way to catch them is either by doing a basic ground combo at the empty air and hope they fall into it, or jump into the air and do a basic shallow sword slash and try to suspend them into the air for your teammate to follow up. The lock-on has a horrible habit of picking someone not even close to who you are trying to fight, often an enemy dying behind you off screen or super far away.
Dude, this lock-on is just sometimes the fucking worst. Like, I'm trying to lock onto the guy I'm standing right in front of, and it locks me onto a dude who's dying in the background. Like, what the fuck was that? Come on now.
Using RT to swap targets isn't nearly as fluid as you'd like, so you can be rushing to catch a pass from Almira or Leon only to lock on to the wrong enemy and drop the combo. To add to the difficulty of trying to catch enemies to keep comboing, either your moves lack the ability to OTG enemies in multiple situations, or enemies lack the ability to be hit when downed or falling to the ground. You just see your weapon phase right through them, and there is nothing you can do to keep the juggle going. The best way I found to keep combos going is when you pass an enemy to one of your allies and they start doing their combo, during the middle of their turn, jump at the enemy and just do your own air combo and send them flying. This way your allies will, for some reason, register that it's your pass to them and that they haven't had their turn yet, so they'll just zipline right back to them, and I've been able to do this pretty consistently that I can get over Zenith actually kinda easily. And for the cherry on top of these issues, there is also the weirdness of how only certain moves will make the AI register that you are passing an enemy to them. The only way for your allies to jump to your enemies to juggle them is if you do one of the two launchers, forward and square or back and square. If you send an enemy flying via basic attacks or a combo ender that isn't one of the two I just listed, then nothing happens, which feels counterintuitive and makes the combat feel clunkier than it honestly needs to be. The game is in dire need of a way for you to zip yourself to enemies in the air like how AI controlled Almira and Leon do, either the jump dash like in Garo, Nero's Wire Snatch, or Virgil's Blink Dagger from Devil May Cry. Partway through the game you get a Devil Trigger which allows you to don your armored forms, which look incredible. Sadly, it takes so long to fill the meter to get the transformation that I think I got it a total of 1 or 2 times in my first playthrough. Unless I am missing something about this system, the only way to build the meter is to collect these blue orbs dropped by enemies, and they are so rare and fill so little. Though on my subsequent playthroughs I did consistently get it a lot more. The most I ever got for the blue orbs was when I landed an over zenith on a group of enemies, but like I just went into, getting a level 3 juggle combo isn't the easiest with these controls, combat, and uncooperative AI. Eventually, later in the game, you even get the ability to play levels as Almira and Leon. When I saw this, it had me so excited because it's something that you rarely see in these types of games, or just in games in general. So many cool characters you'd wish to be able to play as, and would end up be the source of playground rumors on how to play them, like being able to stay as Roxas for the entirety of KH2, or how to find the super secret extra Colossi in Shadow of the Colossus. But if you thought that playing as Feel was stiff and at times underwhelming, then you are going to be disappointed with Almira and Leon's gameplay. Their range is somehow even more shallow than your sword swings. It's at times like this where I wish every game just had KH2 level disjointed hitboxes to make combat feel good. The pecking order for the most appealing to play as the main three is Feel, then Almira, and finally Leon. The most groan-worthy system in this game is the RPG mechanics. This is another thing that I referenced when talking about Ghost Rider. Your upgrades for damage, health, and item slots are so expensive it feels like you need to grind forever to get everything. There are also items that you can buy which give your weapons elemental properties but at the trade-off of dealing less damage. Some of the late game enemies are already real ball busters and feel like you are punching a brick wall with glass hands. The trade-off didn't really seem worth it, or even do anything other than in team attacks to even seem like something worth engaging with. I just used the items that I always use when available in a game, which is increasing the amount of currency dropped by enemies when they die. Depending on what decisions you make throughout the game, since there are some minor branching paths, you'll either have Juju or Golem join your team for a brief period of time in the middle of the game. The other of the two who you did not beat in the group battle and did not join your party will be unlocked as a playable character for bonus mode, which is basically this game's version of chapter select, where you can replay levels as any combination of characters but without the story bits. That last facet about it does suck because that means if you want to see bits of the story again, either as a refresher to re-experience parts of the game or to unlock the other character that you don't have, you have to replay the entire game. Sadly, there is no story mode chapter select, so you can't just replay the mission where you fight both of them in tandem and beat the other character to unlock the one you're missing. That's not even mentioning the 2 bonus chapters that you can only get from a second playthrough by filling certain conditions. friends. The game does not outright explain this, at least from what I saw, but there is apparently an affinity system in this game where you raise your friendship with Leon and Almira based on what dialogue options you pick. I only found out about this after I had already beat the game and consulted a GameFAQs guide that brought it up. The guide says the way you check your affinity with a specific character is by going to the equipment screen and seeing how the character is posed. How you are supposed to figure this out, if that is the case, is completely beyond me, but for anyone who is now going to play this game after watching this video, you now at least know. Who you have a higher affinity with is what allegedly dictates who rejoins your party first after everybody gets separated in Chapter 9. The other criteria that needs to be filled to get these bonus chapters is both beating the game once, so you can unlock an item called the Justice Muffler for one of them, along with finding the hidden items that are present in the story missions called Fragments of Intelligence. Once you get these items, to get the bonus chapter you must replay the game and complete Chapter 8 with the Justice Muffler equipped. You'll know you get the bonus chapter when you see question marks in the menu before the next mission. This is one of my favorite uses of bonus content because it's
the Slayer Squad!
That's right, it's a Super Sentai gag level where Feel wakes up in modern day Japan and the gang are Power Rangers with unique costumes, transformations, and music, as enemies have been repurposed into Saturday morning cartoon villains, cheesy voice acting, and everything.
Soon you'll all be loyal servants of Theologia, our secret organization, Gah! And then you'll devote your life to His Holiness, the Great Evil Lord, Gah!
I love when games do stuff like this and just have fun with their characters and world, to do some silly what-if scenarios or homage stuff that the staff really loves. The second bonus chapter is the one I actually take more issue with. The chapter itself is good, but I think it should not have been made a bonus secret that you could completely miss and never know its existence if not for videos like mine or guides on GameFAQs. This mission brings closure to what happens to Kane after his disappearance at the end of the prologue of the game. In this mission, you play as Vitas with Juju and Gollum as your party members. This takes place post the prologue, but before Chapter 1 of the game. You go through a few combat arenas, and then you run into Kane. It turns out that he has been hiding since the events of the prologue, where his mind was released from the control of the gods. He has been secretly raising the child of the gods, and is preparing to fight against them when the time is right. Sadly, we don't get a cool boss fight against him, as Kane and Vitas just shoot fireballs at each other in a cutscene, which leaves Kane fatally wounded. This, however, breaks Vitas free of the gods' control, and Kane entrusts him to continue his mission to stop the gods. This is where we see a young Feel protecting a golden orb. Not only does this outright confirm that Feel is Kane's son, which is pretty obvious outside of the possibility that he was a clone or an age-regressed memory-wiped Kane, which in a story that is as batshit crazy as this is completely believable and completely possible. It also shows what happened to Kane and why he never shows up again in the rest of the story, and recontextualizes all of Vitas' actions, since he has been faking his control of the gods this whole time, pushing the former Oz members to get stronger. Again, this is something that you can just completely miss and beat the game wondering what the hell happened with this plot point that has never been addressed and just think it is a massive plot hole, which isn't actually the case. So to save everyone who wants to play this game post this video a lot of time, I've made a save file using the one already on GameFAQs as a base, and made in-game saves before each of the bonus chapters. So all you have to do is download the save file linked in the description below, import it into PCSX2 or your modded PS2 using a free McBoot memory card, then load the save Chapter 8 cleared for the Oz Ranger mission, and then load Chapter 16 cleared for the Kane mission. These two secret missions aren't all of the bonus content this game has to offer. The game is actually chock-filled with side stuff and features that I don't think I've ever seen another game offer. The first is Henchman mode, where you play a level as the enemies of this game and fight against the evil copies of the main cast. And you get to see what it's like to be on the other end of being juggled. Not that you don't already get that experience when versing the Yellow and Blue Knights.
Dude, can I touch the ground? My god!
When you do actually get a chance to land a hit on them, it's pretty fun, and the enemies surprisingly control pretty well. But I had already burned through about 10 lives before I was even able to do so, and after the initial charm of the gimmick wears off, there isn't much reason to keep playing it outside of the first time. The next extra is Dorothy mode, where you replay the levels as Feel's little sister, where she steals the souls of everyone she runs into like a prime Mike Tyson, all with just her little weaved basket. Finally, playable BB Hood in a third-person action game. She solos Goku easily. She'll make him look free. It makes sense narratively, but in-game, she is probably the strongest character you can play as. Instead of having any of the other Oz members or even Feel as a party member to juggle enemies with you, you are joined by Toto. Another charming little game mode where it plays up the cutesy aspects of Dorothy's character with a main menu like this to contrast her utter destruction of all of God's creations, leaving nothing but death and desolation in her wake. I talked about bonus mode earlier, where you get to replay levels without the story aspect as any combination of characters, and surprisingly, there are even unique voice lines for all of them, including Feel and Kane, where Feel will call out to him as father, which is cute. There are also a ton of unlockable costumes that can be used in this mode, as well as story mode. You have Robbie the Rabbit from Silent Hill, Leon Belmont from Lament of Innocence, Flame Champion Kogoro from Suikoden 3, a Tokimeki Memorial School uniform, along with some non-Konami cameo costumes like a butler outfit for Vetus, a teacher outfit for Almira, and there are even some other cosmetics like an afro and chicken hat. I wonder if this is where the idea for it in MGS5 came from. The gallery is filled with amazing art in every title card from the game, so you can just rip them right out of it without having any of the overlays, which is really nice. The feature I am most surprised by was the sound player, where you can just listen to all of the tracks of the game and also play back every voice line any character has. I can't think of any other single game that just has a menu where you can play back any single voice line in isolation like this. Besides all of the bonus content, the story itself has 3 different endings you can get, tied to your overall rating of the campaign, with C getting you the bad ending, B getting you the normal ending, and A getting you the good ending. This laundry list of content will keep you pretty busy trying to unlock it all, but for as much as I really like this game, I don't think it warrants the 30+ hours you can sink trying to get everything, which is why I recommend playing through the game once, getting whatever ending naturally, then importing my save I posted on GameFAQs and see the bonus content for yourself without dumping more time than you need to. While the game has a pretty conclusive ending, so there's no real need for a sequel, I still wish that Konami made another game like this to allow the combat and ideas shown off here to be fully realized. That's never going to happen given the direction the company has taken in the past 2 decades, and I don't expect to ever see this game getting a re-release or officially being brought to North America. The Sword of Etheria really does have such a unique combat system that nothing else I've played has truly recaptured it. The closest thing to was a release from this year, Hi-Fi Rush, as the assists you can call in like Peppermint function very similar to keeping enemies juggled in the air for you to follow up on after your combo ends. Yes, this game is jank. Yes, it's undercooked in a few places, and it can be pretty frustrating when your AI partners don't cooperate, but I can't recommend this game enough, because as a complete package, with its charming cast, weird and enthralling world, and banging soundtrack, it has been one of the most memorable games I've played in recent memory.
What's that? They pronounce it Etheria. I'm not going back to change it.
If you've made it this far into the video, I just want to say thanks for watching as always. If you really liked the video, please leave a like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe and pass the video around. If you really like these videos and want to see more like it, then maybe consider becoming a patron on Patreon. It is the best way to support the channel. All patrons get access to videos a day early, along with a $7 tier that allows you to view rough cuts of upcoming videos. I'm now going to shout out all of my $5 and up patrons who really help support the channel. Bully, Densha, Lucy the Fox, Salt and Sweet Rum, Sir Newt Newt, Scary Dinosaur, Curtis Harris, Elliot Morton, Kohai Carmen, Lotto, Medi Not the Bad Guy, Nemphy, Quaner, Quartz, Samuel Egan, Sayan Heggy, Simply Aiden, Slemp Tingle, Swimming, Walkman, BBF in Bloxburg, NM, Revin, Cosmonaut Cola, Rovit, Ben Johnson, Buckets, Bergnut, Chichometrius, Cursed Void RTGC, Ekfrazo, Filthy Finger 69, Fishkami, Hardleg Joe, Kazmark Chick, Kevin Velasquez, Lazy Titan, Megan, Nicholas Pedinato, Sean the Berserker Fighter, Starcasters, The Worstest Guy, Applejuice 426, William Moore, and David Roberts. Thanks so much, guys. As for what's coming out next, I'm not really sure. I have a ton of videos still in the middle of production, things of varying degree of completion. I'm also slowly chipping away at Armored Core, but who knows whenever that's going to be out because there's 15 games I have to cover, I think. So if you really want to help support me, as videos take really long to make, then the Patreon really helps out. I also have a NordVPN affiliate link in the description below using my promo code, and I also have a TCG Player affiliate link in the description below. Any purchases you make while checking out using that link will give me a small kickback. And I think that's pretty much it. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks for watching, and see you next time.